guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I've got something a little bit different for you. It's something I've not done before and I've been meaning to film it for over a year. But I am going to be reviewing this book here, a book review video. It's Andrew Lloyd Webber's Unmasked, a memoir, and I just thought I'd let you know what I thought of it. Now, last year I did go to an evening with Andrew Lloyd Webber, and that vlog is somewhere on my channel if you have a look for it. But before I went, I read most of his book. I think I read it down on the train to London actually, and went to the evening and then carried on finishing reading it. This book is 487 pages long, and usually when reading a biography this size, I would expect the biography to pretty much cover like everything from the person's like childhood all the way up until the current point of them writing the book. But this, with Andrew Lloyd Webber being who he is, this only actually covers from his birth, childhood, right up until the very first night of Phantom of the Opera opening in London back in 1986. Like, it stops at the first night. And when I went to the evening with Andrew Lloyd Webber, he actually said that he didn't know if he was going to write parts 2 and 3 because that's where it all started going wrong. I think making reference to obviously when he was poorly and Love Never Dies came out, and Stephen Ward didn't do particularly well either. But yeah, this book is an absolute fascinating read. Reading through it, like, to begin with, I was really curious to know about his life as a child. Like how he was little, growing up in Weymouth Street. He seemed very close to his Auntie Vi, and his father being very into music as well and coming up with songs. My ticket's fallen out there. And it's just very, very cute, like his life, the stories he pulls up from childhood with him and his brother Julian, who is a pretty amazing musician himself as well. Like, it's very middle to upper class London, I'm not gonna lie, and you can definitely think like he's definitely not like someone who I would have met growing up as a kid. But then it goes through to like his early days in college, university, how he met Tim Rice. There's a little bit of backstage gossip, I suppose, where from the early shows, where working with Tim on shows like Evita, Jesus Christ Superstar, and like the relationships they got into. He's had 3 wives, which I knew, but I didn't know who like his wives were, apart from Sarah Brightman, who obviously was like wife number 2 when Phantom came out. But I didn't know that Tim Rice, for example, had been having a relationship with Elaine Page, like, and I honestly did not know that until I read this book. And so there's like briefly mentions it, but he doesn't go into it because it's really none of his business. But then there's some really great pictures at certain points in the book as well. So you've got like his mum and his dad, and that's his Auntie Vi, who had a pet monkey. There's a funny story about how she had a pet monkey and the pet monkey did not like Andrew one little bit, which I thought was really cute. And then moving on, like, there's him and Tim Rice back in like uni days, college days, and it's just weird. Like, I don't think he's changed much at all from then to now, really. Obviously he's got older, so has Tim Rice, but he still looks like the same throughout his whole entire life. There's also a picture here which I thought was really adorable and goes really well when he's talking about how Cats the musical came to be, of him visiting Judi Dench in hospital, which, for those of you that didn't know, Judi Dench was going to be the original Grisabella in Cats until she broke her ankle, and then with 3 days rehearsal Elaine Page stepped in, and that's how she's become like famous for singing Memories. And I really like this shot from Cats, which I've never seen before, from the original Cats production, with Sarah Brightman, Ken Wells and Finola Hughes as the Cats, and it's not an image I've ever seen before, but that's always interesting to see. I like little backstage. And then I really like these pictures from the Phantom of the Opera's first opening night there, like they're really cool as well. And there's also a picture of the Palace Theatre, where Harry Potter and the Cursed Child are currently performing, but back then he had his show Song and Dance there, and again that's really interesting to see how his like career's gone on and his thoughts and his feelings. Like, he's very descriptive of what he thought about the shows he was coming out with. It does say in the book, like, at times what he enjoyed about what doing in certain shows and what he didn't, how he felt, you know, maybe those shows could have improved, or, you know, he's very analytical of himself. He doesn't go, oh, well, I'm just fabulous, so I'm writing this book about it and look how fabulous my show is. He admits, you know, which I quite like, how he's no holds barred, and he does admit, you know, like, sometimes I didn't behave particularly well and sometimes this didn't work and that is my fault. Like, he doesn't try and pin the blame on anyone else. Like, some people are prone to do that, some companies are prone to do that, where they pin the blame on someone. I just thought I'd read you this one little extract from the book. It's towards the end, but it talks about when Phantom of the Opera was in planning and rehearsing and production, and it says, this is how it goes. I found it quite amusing, somewhat. It said, during that week there was what might be described as an incident. Cameron, Michael Crawford and I were driving from Vauxhall to the theatre. As we neared Lambeth Bridge, Michael said he wanted his performance of The Point of No Return to be pre-recorded because he performed the song with a hood over his face. He thought he'd sound muffled. Cameron went tonto and said for the money he was earning, Michael could at least sing his big second act song live. Did he want to phone in his performance? By now we were stuck in a traffic jam. Michael yelled, "How dare you!" Whereupon producer and leading man leapt onto the pavement and a few astonished tourists savoured a mini bout of fisticuffs. I, being a pacifist, stayed in the car. The sight of the traffic jam clearing and the car receding with me in it mouthing, "May the best man win," calmed things down. We proceeded to Her Majesty's in silence and the topic was never raised again. I found that I can imagine it was a stressful time, like putting a brand new show together like that. So, but I can just imagine like Cameron McIntosh fighting with Michael Crawford on the pavement and Andrew's just like, oh dear. And then there's another story from the Phantom. Next there was a big drama about pigeons. Hal wanted pigeons to flutter over the audience at the start of the rooftop closing scene of Act 1. Apparently pigeons are attracted to light sources, so 2 bright beams were installed in the gallery for the pigeons to home to. Not our pigeons. After too many near misses from passing bird shit, Cameron declared Her Majesty's Theatre a feather friend free zone. That would have been really interesting, actually, if they kept the pigeons and, like, I think pigeons are really hard to train, aren't they? I don't know. I mean, obviously you get messenger pigeons back in the old days, I guess, Middle Ages, and, like, carrier pigeons, but, oh, I'm not sure I'd like that, actually, having pigeons flying over me in the auditorium. I would literally be, like, wearing a poncho or something to, like, protect from poo, like, in the book, yeah. Poo, or what if one of the pigeons got sick and landed on you during the performance? That'd be a mood killer, wouldn't it? Another thing that struck me about this book as well, about how caring Andrew Lloyd Webber is, there is a part in the book where he talks about his first wife, Sarah, not Sarah Brightman, Sarah Hugill, yeah, Sarah Hugill, and apparently he came home from having a meeting about Thomas the Tank Engine with Granada TV. Like, I didn't know he even had anything to do with Thomas the Tank Engine. I used to love Thomas the Tank Engine when I was a 2-year-old. Ringo Starr narrating it was the best thing ever. Like, I had all the books, all the videos, all the toys, anything that had Thomas on it, I owned it. But back to the point, like, he's really caring. Like, he came home from that meeting one day to find Sarah in a strange state, and he blamed himself for, like, not being there for her. Apparently she was suffering with stress and given, like, given Valium to, like, calm her down and things. But there's one bit in the book where she seems like she's really, really ill, and he had to call an ambulance, and the ambulance guy goes, "Is she your sister?" And he went, "No, she's my wife." And he was like, "Sorry, son." it just makes me really feel for him in this book, because you can sense his desperation about, he wants to know what's wrong with his wife, and it turns out she's a diabetic and just like really poorly, because that can happen when you're a diabetic, like it can get that bad. But yeah, I just think, wow, oh, he's so cute, like, oh. Another thing that amuses me about the book is how different theatre is produced in America compared to the West End, especially back in like the 70s and 80s. Like the whole process of getting a show out in those days was obviously to release an album first of the show before actually staging the thing. And there's a bit where they've taken Jesus Christ Superstar to the USA, but before it opened on Broadway it did like a big tour of the States. And there's a really funny part in the book here where he works with two men, Peter Newfield and Tyler Gatchell, who have been engaged as the Broadway line producers for the show, and they were basically going to look after the show, the nuts and bolts, contracting actors, getting the right set pieces in and things. And there was one night where Tyler and Andrew were going outside the arena for one of the Jesus Christ Superstar shows, and then they hear programs, only $1, and it turns out to be another producer for the show called David Land, and they like see him and he sees them, and then he's like, let's keep this our secret, we can share program money, you and I, all cash, no questions asked. And Andrew goes, what about Tim, meaning Tim Rice? And David goes, he's not here, only you and I need to know. Look, Andrew, there's a few bob in this for both of us. Again, I asked if Tim knew about this. David looked pained. I was once beaten by my father for nicking 3 penny bits, he said. Probably a good thing too, I said. But, you see, my boy, my dad didn't cane me for stealing 3 penny bits. He beat me for stealing his 3 penny bits. So, yeah, I found that, like, there's just little stories like that. It's very anecdotal at times, very moving. And I really enjoyed this book. I really hope he does write part 2 and 3, because I think even with some of the musical theatre like disasters he's written or had, or issues in his life, it's still worth reading, and like I think it provides life lessons for people as well. So this book actually I paid full price for. It was £20 in It was £20 in hardbook form. I think you can get it in paperback now, I'm not too sure, but it's very much well worth the money. Like I said, the photos are incredible, and I feel like I know Andrew Lloyd Webber a little bit better now. Obviously I'm not going to say, oh, I'm his best mate because I read his book, but it's really entertaining, and I think it's something that every theatre lover, theatre goer, musical lover should have in their collection. Like, I'm actually going to start reading this again soon, I think. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up for me, comment down below, hit subscribe, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now!